like a lot of the things on LinkedIn will say, you know, it's older people that are putting up resistance to tech. It's the founders putting up resistance. I don't actually agree with that. I think it's generally the younger person that I've seen, because they're fearing their job as a junior person rather than embracing it and becoming an absolute weapon in their role. Or it's the agency that's not keeping up with AI. I honestly think the best agencies will win if they embrace AI. And I kind of talk about, I relate it to Canva in many ways. Like every creative agency thought that Canva would kill them and, you know, was the worst thing on the market. If you look at the best agencies today, they're the ones that have embraced Canva. Laura, incredibly excited to have you on today's episode of the podcast. We met for the first time properly in New Zealand a couple of months ago at the Moustache Republic event, which was an incredible day, and you know, so many great brands in the room. You definitely brought the high energy and the jokes, and I heard you were actually thrown on stage last minute, maybe, I don't know. But excited to have you. So many people know who you are, and you've been incredibly impactful on so many businesses here in Australia. Obviously, Moustache is one of the most well-known, fastest growing, working with some pretty incredible brands. But you as an individual as well have had outside of the agency, have had a tremendous impact on these brands' growth and their overall story, and continue to today. And I'm excited for people to hear Laura's journey and who you are as a person. Maybe that's a good place to kick off. Let's share with the audience your story. You're a mom, you're busy in your career, etc.
Thank you for having me. I used to do a lot of content and podcasts, and then the last 2 years I kind of stopped. So I appreciate this, and it's a bit different for me to talk about myself, which I was like, I'm sure we're going to hear about you in instant. So thank you for having me. For me, my journey, I'm Scottish. This is not an Irish accent, it's a Scottish one. I've been in the country for 15 years. I'm getting my citizenship on Australia Day.
Whoa, nice. Are you getting up on stage?
I mean, it's going to be, I think they do it on Australia Day, and I'm going to be in the local town hall or whatever it is. And it took me to have 2 kids and them have an Australian passport to actually go, okay, I should commit to the country. So 15 years in Australia, the best country in the world to live. Maybe not to do business. We can get into that. I got sponsored to stay here with eBay.
Okay.
So my first 5 years in Australia was working in marketplaces at a super exciting time. It's when websites were hardly functional back then, and marketplaces were the thing. And eBay was the only marketplace pretty much. So it was a great time when there was a team of us that were just out speaking to every brand about why marketplaces is a thing. And when you think about where we're at now, so we were right back at the start of that journey. My background, I studied fashion at uni. I got a first class honours in fashion design. So I came from a strong fashion base. And then I realised my skill set was not to be a designer, but to enable them. So I ended up doing a master's in business.
Okay.
So that's how I ended up getting, I worked in menswear buying. The recession hit the UK. It was a terrible time, and I got here. I got sponsored by eBay, 5 years there. I then went into doing consultancy, working back in retail. I took GM of digital for a pharmacy business that had about 4 brands. Super interesting to me because it was about China. China was the talking point back then. Then I was kind of jumping about consulting, and I met Tony. So Tony is founder of Moustache Republic, a dev agency focused on pretty much Shopify now. And it was 7 years ago, and it was pretty small. He had a couple of cool brands, and he was a Magento agency, and he wanted to pivot to Shopify. And to me,
Shopify was really just becoming a big thing.
It was. Tony wasn't even a partner and had maybe built a couple of websites. And I came in at that time and just went, this makes sense. I took shareholding, a good chunk of the agency, and we scaled it. And it was a great journey. And I decided this year it was time for me to leave. It was the right time. Still major respect for Tony. He's like my Chinese brother. And yeah, so for the last...
How did you get into the world of e-com? You obviously,
Yeah.
eBay was an element, fashion
Yeah.
design, then business. You know, they've all kind of come together now
Yeah.
into when you started in the... What drew you towards it?
Yeah,
Was it-
I mean, nothing from uni. I guess how I got here and how I got into you can call it a marketplace or a tech company, was via the fashion background I had. So I was a menswear buyer. I knew brands at that time. We were valuable commodities, UK people who had worked in fashion. That was, one of getting a sponsorship was, it was key. And at that time, they didn't have maybe as much of the skill sets needed in country. So I got in via the fashion connection, and then I learned the tech as I got more further into it. And that kind of started with that, obviously I was talking to retailers about why marketplaces, and then you go, well, how do we do it? So then there was the tech element, the enablement part. And then like the transition to agency just made sense, because I was telling people, I felt a little bit like a fraud, because I was telling people what they should do, but not how they should do it.
Right.
I wanted to take it to the next level of going, right, Liam, you should go global. You should go in these marketplaces. You should go to Shopify. I wanted to then follow up with, and here's the recommendation around the tech you should use.
Here's how to execute on it.
Here's how you execute on it. So, yeah, great journey. Built that. We worked with brands, Moustache from P Nation, JD Sport, Bird's Nest, Health Post.
So many of them are
Sands.
instant brands
I
as
know.
right?
So you guys became a really great partner, in that, especially the last couple of years. And then, this year, it was just time for me to, do something.
What are your thoughts
different.
on marketplaces? So it's obviously kind of where you started out with, that was huge at the time before Shopify became a thing, when there's so many barriers to starting an e-commerce store, online or brand.
Yeah.
What do you think the evolution will be? Like, are they still important for brands?
Oh my God, yes. I was actually thinking about this in the car, and it was like some of the challenges I see in retail right now is people, right? And I'm like, who would I hire? I'm like,
Well, isn't that's something you say a lot? People's not the problem. It's people isn't the hard. The product isn't the hard part. It's the people.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I do think you can sometimes have a subpar product and do really well, or you can have a really great product and not do as well. It's people behind it. But I think I would hire people from marketplace background, because they know how to trade a site, they know about product, they know about data, how you get the data and the new tools. That's just like, to me, that's the how is, you figure that out. It's more the philosophy and the understanding. So no, on marketplaces, I'm still a massive believer in marketplaces. I think this shrinkage we've seen had to happen.
Yep.
There was no point of difference in some of the marketplaces going about.
Yep.
Retailers got better. So the catches, who else went?
Well, who are the bigger ones? Like, how would you prioritize? Say Amazon.
Amazon, right? Like, I think
it really depends what region as well, right?
It depends what country. I had a chat with a business last week, and they're a fashion business, and they think their website's the only channel, and I'm like, you're going into the US, and you might not think the product fits there, but 60 cents to every dollar in e-commerce in the US is spent on Amazon. Why don't you look into that? So
when these founders are launching into new markets, how do you think about, I know from Instant's perspective, we almost needed to embed ourselves in the market as founders to truly understand it. Like, it was so different to Australia. There's different buying behaviors. They care about data a hell of a lot more. They're so much more experimental. They want to, there's just different traits in the market. As a brand founder, I mean, Amazon's one of the perfect examples of, in Australia, it's really only just becoming a big thing now. Whereas previously it wasn't. Whereas the US, it's been a big thing for years, for a long time. How do you think you embed yourself as a founder into different markets if you're planning to
I think
go there?
there's been a notion that maybe that spray and pray, and I don't agree with that. I think marketplaces need a strategy around it, but I do think that so you have to do your validation, what marketplaces make sense for your brand.
Yep.
For example, here, the Iconic's a marketplace.
Sure.
Then you've got Amazon and eBay. So let's even say locally, you'd maybe look at that. You might decide Amazon locally isn't a place for you, but the US makes sense, right? You can't do retail media. Amazon's the biggest retail media platform. You can't touch that without having inventory live on the platform.
Sure.
They do a FBA. We know all the tariff stuffs. You know, at some point, I do think Australian businesses, so there's two parts to that question, right? For Australian retailers to go out, I think marketplaces can help them land and expand.
Sure.
I think Amazon in particular, they have their FBA model and you just can't, like, it's good.
Yep.
Unless you want to go and do it all yourself, it becomes hard. But nothing's easy anymore. So there's that. But the other part to that, which you spoke about, is one of the things I do now is I've got myself into this space where I advise to C-suite and boards.
Right.
Which is great. And I'm really enjoying it. So the couple of strategies are where I'll really add value. They want to know the low-hanging fruit, but then they also want to know the strategic goals and the pillars. So if global is a plan, often I'll be mentioning marketplaces and having a bit of a look in how we do that. Then the other part to that is, from a tech standpoint, right? I also would help give a little bit of advice to some go-to-market strategies for tech. If you can make it in Australia to a certain point and validate your product offer and get runway, you need to get to the US. Like,
don't wait too long.
Don't wait too long. Yeah, it needs to be good enough because they're going to challenge you, right? But the way they make their purchasing decision is really based on outcomes. Like, if they can test and learn, they've just got bigger resources. They can. You know, if you can give them a number, they're willing to just give it a go.
Well, I mean, there's so many brands in Australia that we can offer an example. I mean, I saw an article about White Fox the other day. They've done obviously incredibly well here in Australia. And Jay Wright at eCommerce Equation, he did a video on it. I think it was like $200 million of revenue here in Australia. And now there's $100 million worth of revenue in the US with White Fox. If they didn't expand over there, they'd be a significantly smaller business today.
Yeah.
And arguably the Australian business is still pretty significant.
Yeah.
And it's been such an important part of their growth story, not waiting too long. But that's the same with like Pepper Mayo, or you talk to Showpo, or like these brands rely on those regions.
And even like think about, like, sometimes I think about more traditional, let's call it, brands like Zimmerman.
Yeah.
The US is their biggest market.
Yeah.
You know, arguably they've got, I mean, their head office is still here, and I'm sure they've got a satellite team, they're running it, but they're getting more sales in the US now.
Yep.
So I think it's been interesting with the tariffs.
Platforms like Meta or TikTok make it so easy to begin advertising in those regions.
Yeah.
Obviously that's a slippery slope, but you can start to experiment so quickly. And so many brands will start off by shipping from Australia. And then I know that's what I say, like one of our bigger brands in Melbourne, College & Co. They've done like incredibly fast growing business that's so under the radar. And they just started selling from Australia and shipping from Australia until it made sense to bring all the operations over there.
And you know, working in retail and brand is hard. There's lots of challenges, and we're in a region with a small population. You know, compared to the US. So the market's a lot bigger. It's different. You definitely need to do your homework. But you go, like that idea of, like, we've had a long runway of shipping from Australia.
Sure.
And then when the tariffs and everything came out, everyone, you know, and I get it, they lost their mind. It was going to be a different ball game. The margins were going to get slashed. What do? Who's taking the hit? Who's paying for this? And I do think that a few people should have already had fulfillment or landed goods in the US to do it properly. So on the positive from that dysfunction that we had, it really made brands build a proper global strategy, have to get, you know, fulfillment centers.
Don't take all these shortcuts.
Yeah, or, you know, if you've, like, you know, speaking to a brand that 50% of the revenue is coming from the US for the last 3 years, well, you know, you need to, that's the next evolution of how you get it even bigger. So Yeah, I think it's like, I always say it's like David and Goliath. I think there's so much potential for really good Australian brands to be bigger players. I think if you can make it here and you can get by in the budgets we have here, you can expand globally. That's two dual ways. I kind of consult. Where I've been pulled into more from advisory is the retail board and C-suite.
Right.
But the other part to me is like that go-to-market, like tech companies. Like if you're an Australian tech and you get legs and you've got runway in Australia, oh my God, you'll get to the US and you get one of these massive retailers, with
Game changing.
It's game changing,
Yeah.
and their appetite and the way they do their buying cycle is so different to here. They're very keen to do a pilot, a test and learn phase, and
Well, I'm
then
interested
scale
to
it.
hear your thoughts then. So, you obviously work with some incredible brands, and some of them you listed out just before. What do you think are the traits of these fastest growing brands? Are they experimenting more than the average brand? Do they focus on hiring? Is it products?
Yeah.
What are the traits?
So one thing, everything's nuanced, right? And one thing that my ICP, so the ideal client profile for me, is not startup. It's scale up, and it's people with problems in their business who need digital transformation. And I think it's really important to say that, because they're not the same recipes you need for each.
Yep.
So often I'm looking at that 50 million plus retail business, combination of store and online, and they're looking to grow. So they're right now where they're at is some of the challenges they have is how they operationalize it. Have they got the right bums in seats? What's happening with AI? How do they move strategic and fast at the same time, right? How do they have that long-term pillars in the world of AI that, long-term, what does that mean now? 12 months? Is that long? That's probably long-term, versus really quick wins, which is the, 3 months execution. So
What are some of the quick wins you think are top of
Like-
mind at the moment?
Like I would definitely say I'm still feeling like when you go into a brand, it's like you want to look at the CRO, what's happening with their tech, right? What's happening on their website? How's that experience from a customer? So the CRO audit, still big, CRM audit, big, digital marketing audit. So they're the three pillars that you have to go in. It sets the scene. You can see the business. Usually you can find some quick wins there. But
What are the biggest mistakes brands are making on, say, the digital marketing front?
The biggest mistake. So this is where I would say back to the ICP thing. What smaller, more agile brands are doing. So some of the more pure plays that you don't even know, and then you find out they're doing 40 million and you're like, who are you?
Yeah.
Right?
And there's a lot of those.
There's a lot of them, and they're amazing, but they're very founder led.
Yep.
They have small teams and they are in doing the doing. That next wave of more traditional, who have combination of store and online, I think we're at this point where it's resetting what you bring in-house versus what you outsource.
Yes.
So I would say we're going back to some fundamentals on strategy. What is the 3-year? I mean, I ask it quite a lot now when I do any chairing or speaking. I'm like, who's got a 3-year strategy? And
Almost nobody.
nobody's hand. You could have a room of 100 retailers. And I'm not talking about startups. I'm talking about that 50 to 100 million.
What should be in that 3-year plan? Obviously, there's a million things.
You
But
know,
most important.
weirdly, it's kind of philosophical, right? You have to have what is the philosophy you have around tech, right? Then are we going global or are we not?
Yeah. Make a decision.
What do we want?
Yeah.
Do we want to be a
And
global business?
do you recommend reverse engineering that, say, from, all right, what is our revenue objective in 3 years' time? Or is it more about the vision of the company? Where do you reverse engineer?
They have to be. They usually are together. So
Yep.
you'll have people. You have costs that you have to make. You might have a board, private equity involved. So it's a combination of both. You need to know. Right, somebody's given you a number.
Yep.
Right, we want to get to here, and then you reverse it. You do the 3-year plan, then you go to the 1-year plan.
Yes.
So and then you ask the question at the conference. The same
So it
people.
might be something like, all right, we want to go from 50 to 250, and we want to be global, and we want to be X.
Yeah.
And then reverse engineer how to actually achieve that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of brands don't have that.
No.
They've got no, they're just day in, day out.
Yeah.
All they're thinking about is next Black Friday, you know, by in June.
Yeah.
And you know, they're away on holidays in the first couple of weeks of the year, or first couple of months of the year, because they've just had a massive Black Friday, and it's constantly firefighting.
Well, you know, right?
That's the problem.
Because lots of your, customers, it will be, this period has been really, I don't want to say make or break, but November's...
there's so many brands that this period is like 30 to 40% of their revenue. And if they don't kill it, it's critical.
It is, and I think it's becoming more and more critical to nail that month and have the planning and the preparation around it.
Yep.
And it's funny, you say, what's the biggest thing? And in a statement, someone said to me, like, if you chase 2 rabbits, you catch none.
Yeah.
And that's like, if I spoke to a chairman on the board and I say that, they would get it. Because it's like, we don't know where we're going.
Yeah.
So you need to do the groundwork on that. And this is as old as time itself, right?
Sure.
Like,
we need a plan.
You need a plan. You need to know where the North Star is. How you get there, you need to hire the smart people to figure that out. Right? The 1 year plan, micromanaging, I'm not into, but we need to know where we're going, and it comes back to that. There's too many people in that 50 to 100 million bucket that they're chasing too many things and nothing, and momentum's not there. So,
momentum solves everything in many ways. You've been posting on LinkedIn a lot lately around your thoughts on AI, but more particularly your thoughts on the classic agency approach versus maybe the newer mentality around starting to bring things in-house, and particularly how AI assists brands in bringing more than ordinary in-house. Top of mind, things like photography has become a lot easier, or website, or there's so many things that can now be done by one person: support, emails, delivery, operations of the business. What are your thoughts? You've been posting a lot about it.
Well, I used to post a lot more, and I've put a couple of things out. I'm hearing a rhetoric which is a wee bit true, but there's echo chambers, and I'm very mindful of like the brands that are doing 40 million that you don't even know, right? Sometimes, like, I wouldn't say, I think we're at, like I said, the reason I left agency, truthfully, is because in a dev agency, which is where I was, we had this, and Liam, how old are you now?
22.
Right, okay. So when you were in primary school, we had this customized tech, right? Everything was custom. Then everyone went to Magento, right? And then everyone moved to Shopify. And now I think we're at the next phase, okay? So everything moved the way it was meant to move. So we went from really high customization to then best in breed tech.
Yep.
Now we're kind of a little bit back to in the middle of there.
Yep.
And so there's consolidation of tech. We've got platforms who are now, the cool tech of 5 years ago are now becoming...
If it's still manual, you're using the wrong tech now, in a sense. Everything is becoming...
But the agent world is bringing a bit of... I could almost think of that as a bit of customization.
Sure.
So what I would say is, the thing about me is I'm good at being okay with not knowing the answers, but finding them out. So I know it's coming. I think that avoiding looking at AI, you have to be working with the best tech who are enabling AI within their platform.
Do you think that as a business you're falling behind if you're not embracing it now?
Yes.
Because I still speak to so many people that work in e-commerce today, and I actually think out of the conversations I have, it's not like a lot of the things on LinkedIn will say, it's older people that are putting up resistance to tech. It's the founders putting up resistance. I don't actually agree with that. I think it's generally the younger person that I've seen, because they're fearing their job as a junior person rather than embracing it and becoming an absolute weapon in their role. Or it's the agency that's not keeping up with AI. And I honestly think the best agencies will win if they embrace AI. And I kind of talk about, I relate it to Canva in many ways. Like every creative agency thought that Canva would kill them and, was the worst thing on the market. If you look at the best agencies today, they're the ones that have embraced Canva. And it's going to be the same with all of these AI tools.
And that's the exit for me was like, I could see it, and it's weird, and I never think I'm ahead of the game, and I don't think I am of where I want to be, because I seen this a year before I actually left the agency world. And again, it's all the agencies are figuring it out, right? They're figuring it out. They need some time.
What do you think will happen? Do you think
I think what needs to happen is that this idea of paying on execution and time and material is kind of gone. And there needs to be like that. It goes from execution to wisdom. So I'm in that space. I want it to be about growth strategies.
Okay.
Does an agency and execution play into that? Yes, but it needs to be more than that now. So it's about this: how do you sell value instead of steady hours? Is a big change. So I wouldn't say there's an anti-agency. I think it's just that retailers and brands need to be they're looking for people to kind of give them guidance.
What do you think are the questions that need to be asked? If it's no longer about, this is the project we need done, can you do it?
It's not siloed.
No.
It's not siloed. Now we need to be looking at what's happening at the C-suite and the board. What is the CEO's problem, and how do you help him solve it? I'm often seeing agencies stuck here doing the doing, and they don't understand where they're trying to get to.
Sure.
So there's a transformation happening. There's also consolidation of, well, you need to do more services now. With the AI piece, to me, it's almost like, what is the right starting point for an AI strategy? As I said to you, I think it's the agencies that you partner with. They have to be able to communicate that.
It's funny because one of the questions now I would be asking as a brand is,
what are you doing?
Are you embracing AI as part of this project?
How do I get more value from my 10 grand retainer I give you?
Yeah.
They're 100%.
And if they've got no answer to that, they're already behind. And so they're just going to put you as a brand behind as well.
You 100% have every right to ask that. And I think that's the question. And that's where, then I do think that there's a bit of a need, like, what is the good brands doing well, or where's that evolution came from? Before, if you were on Magento, you had to get to Shopify. You had to get to, so you could lean on best practice, what tech, Shopify, whatever. Now we're kind of, we're out of that wave. Now that if they've got it, they've got the foundations there. Now what? Now we have to be a bit more creative. So I think it's if I've got agency partners challenging them on what they're doing, a lot of them are in that journey. Then there's the second thing about the guardrails, like what from a brand is a no-go area, right? Content generation. I've seen someone post, like one of their LinkedIn's, like comment, AI model, and I'll send you my downloaded PDF of how to do these prompts. And I looked at it and I thought...
And there's thousands of comments and you're like, it's just engagement farming in a sense.
But it was literally promoting turning, a lipstick into 20 different AI-generated models of every colour, size. And I kind of went, whoa, I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
So there's conversations that need to happen about where's the guardrails, how do you take it on, and then how do you enable smart people who are maybe a wee bit junior, give them the guardrails, give them some of the tools, and let them...
There's so much repetitive work that can be killed.
100%. Data is one of the things, I mean, everyone says it, but structured data, that marketplace, it reminds me back to that. It's funny, people are starting to talk about feed tools again. I'm like, what? Feed tools? This is like, I was talking about this 15 years ago at eBay, right? It's just now, the feed tool is now AI driven, and you can now enhance your data in so many ways, and you have to enhance it for how AI's got to search it. So I would say...
Well, yes, that's one of the biggest things now, is making sure that you're actually being shown in the search results of what people are looking up.
Yeah.
And I just feel that so many founders have built an incredible relationship with their agency, or better yet, just the people on their team as well, who are putting up this resistance. And because they like these people so much, they're not asking the questions that need to be asked. They're not wanting to get rid of the retainer if it doesn't make sense. They're not wanting to challenge the agency or the people that they're surrounded by. And I think there's always going to be room for an agency, just like there's still room for a creative agency today with the tools like Canva. Like there always will be. But the best agencies will change, and only the best agencies will keep up.
And I think that's what we're saying. If I was in an agency of like 30 people, I would be looking, I think the days of being acquired for big numbers they'll still happen. The multiplier's not as high. I'd be looking for a merger or something like that to try and, how do we add more services. Obviously, alignment and values is super important in that. But I think it's
what do you think are some of the biggest shifts that AI will cause? Like, I think that top of mind is things like influencers are really big today, whereas a couple of people on the podcast have said that they don't think influencers will continue to be a really big thing moving into next year. Other people disagree with that and say that AI actually means that influencers will become a lot stronger because, now it's personal. Do you think that AI is going to go down the route of everyone's just expecting AI and that they'll become receptive to it? Or do you think that brands will be able to stand out by being a lot more personal?
Well, I think comes back to it's weird, the advisory. I can help people pick their tech and do an RFP. That's easy, but it's actually becoming that 3-year, what's the values of the company? How do we get it out? And I think it comes back to values. There's tons you can do with AI. It doesn't have to be around models, right?
Yep.
It could be about certain types of creative, right? It can be like I read H&M. They've put to market what they're doing with AI is they've got, and again, this is me trying my best to summarize it. They've got their models. What they're doing is they've asked that model to sign an agreement that they can use that model for AI, and they'll license it out. So basically, it's like you've got Paula, who's the model. They've paid for the photo shoot. They've got her. They've maybe signed a year agreement, and they can, obviously within Guardrails, use Paula's AI avatar where they want. So that's they're setting their way in there, and that's what every brand has to do. Some brands might go like this. We're doing everything AI. We don't care. This is what we're doing. This is how we'll answer to it.
Yep.
And that's what we're doing. Others will go, I'm a fashion brand. We're not going to do that, right?
I think and everything is so opinionated still at the moment. But so again, so many brands look at AI as a hypothetical as well. Agencies, brands, founders, but it's here, and it's time to embrace it.
Well, I see it actually a wee bit opposite. I've seen founders of big companies send their team AI pictures going, get this done, I want to do it. And that also terrifies me because I'm like, don't slow down that momentum thing, right? Don't slow it down, but there needs to be a meeting about this, right? There needs to be, and you need to
rally the team behind it.
You need to rally the team, you need to set some boundaries, and you need to be okay with it. And then if that boundary changes, which it possibly will, we go again. Personally, and again, I don't think we know ourselves more than, maybe I'll completely change my tune. The idea of saying all AI generated content for stuff I'm going to buy, I don't like.
Yep.
I think I'd see it as a supplement, not as it. I do not believe that it will get rid of influencers at all. I think the way they're going to use and monetize and have agreements with the models, I think that H&M example is a good framework potentially, right? You're still paying them. They're getting a kickback from every time you use their asset.
Yep.
But you're being able to 10 times your content production without doing photo shoots and spending all that money.
Laura, it's been great to have you on the podcast. Thanks for
you.
sharing your journey. One last rabbit hole to go down. What would you say is like the most important thing you've worked on in your career?
There's people who are visionaries and founders, right, like yourself, right, who can really take a product, bring it to life, scale it, right?
Sure.
I realised maybe 5 years ago that wasn't me. I'm great at taking a visionary and helping them grow their business. Right. So I love that. But for me personally, what I did, and I think I'm quite proud of myself for doing this. 2 years ago, I made a plan to have more of a portfolio career because I thought, how do I become valuable to myself without always being behind someone to help them scale, which is I love that.
Sure.
So I went about the path of I've invested in some companies, I part own a couple of gyms. I've got my finger in a few pies, and that allows me to feel I have that autonomy. I have my own portfolio career, and I can help founders and businesses scale up. That was probably a bit of a bee in my bonnet.
Rather than just focusing on one thing, you get to help so many people with...
Well, maybe it was a bit of ego or something in me that I was like, well, should I try and do I want to be the front man? And it's like, no, you know what? I needed to just feel that I had something on my own
Yep.
that was mine, and that's a portfolio of assets and things that I watch and they grow. I'm in crypto and that's not growing right now. That's a bit shit. But so that I can then give my power over to helping people with a vision unblock and create pathways to get it done. So I would say that's what I like to do, and that's what I enabled. Do I feel I've done it to my full potential? No. Something I guess I'm always proud of, I feel like I'm always a person that I always have to be the protagonist for change.
Sure.
And I constantly keep coming back to that for my sins. So yeah.
I think being a part of the arguably probably the most pivotal time in e-commerce, when it went from marketplaces to Magento to Shopify, I think that will continue to be a very pivotal moment for a very long time, and having such a important part in that entire journey throughout your career, I think is, amazing. And then following that through with being such an advocate for, these people to grow exceptional businesses, being a part of their journey, being a part of not only the strategy, what so many people are, just strategy, actually following through with the execution and helping them to execute, I think is incredible.
And Scottish people were really self-deprecating. Like the journey I've had and the businesses I've touched and the relationships I've formed, I actually think that's probably number one. I think the integrity I have, the people who will come to me who have helped get jobs, I'd say that's to me the thing. I sleep very good at night because I know that I've done my best and I've gave back to the community.
The people, always the people. Always the most important product to build is the team. In many ways, I'm excited to see where AI goes in over the next 12 months. I think it's going to be extremely interesting, and it's very hard to predict. But I think my biggest takeaway from today's conversation is just you're already behind if you're not embracing it. Asking the right questions. Not anti-agency, but making sure you're working with the right one. And rallying your team behind, not going too far with it, but actually, but starting to embrace it, one step at a time.
It's like, make sure the tech you work with, like at Instant, is what are they doing with AI? That's the easiest way. You've got Shopify, you've got tech partners, get an update from them. What's going on with them? Then find the 5 things that, I do think the agentic stuff's really, that might accelerate pretty fast on, having some agent that's got to make someone's content and just push it everywhere. Like that might be game changing for some brands who embrace the agentic world. But I think it's just lean into your partners, look at your team. Probably one thing you said is you've got a tool, you want to be working, the e-commerce team and the business has to also now be better at trading the site and playing with the tools. So and just have a plan, know where you're going, block out the noise. This is not the cookie cutter, this is a time where not one size fits all. We're back to innovation, get in the boardroom, make your plan, and then let a smart bunch of people execute on it. And hopefully we'll still be here in a couple of years.
I think we will, and I think some brands are gonna crumble, but others are going to skyrocket now. So thanks for coming on, Laura.
Thank you, Liam.
And
lovely to be here.
Thanks for your impact on the community here in Australia.
Thank you, and thanks for making an old lady like me be inspired by a 22-year-old. It's pretty amazing.
Thanks.
Done.